Hi there, welcome back to the Ginescast. I'm your host, Gina.annunziato. Thank you so much for joining me. I apologize if this cast is a bit late, but I was on vacation all last week, which I'm about to tell you all about. And there's just some things that I took away that I think you need to know. I hope to be back on track soon, and I kind of want to rename the podcast to The Ginescast with Gina.annunziato. I think that just sounds way cooler, but let me know what you think. And in the meantime, why don't we sit back and enjoy The Ginescast number 39, The Muscles versus the Man. I've never been to Las Vegas before. Not unless you count a quick layover in 2016 where I was thrilled to be able to smoke cigarettes inside the airport terminal. But those days are no more. Now I got to fully experience almost all that Vegas has to offer, and I'm pleased to report that it was very much something that exceeded all my expectations. And for 2019 being the year of no expectations, it's safe to say that I had a wonderful time on vacation. There was a certain artificiality to Vegas, and I say that as an elitist New York snob. There's something about the grit and grime in Manhattan that makes us authentic or some crap. Well, I appreciated that Vegas put all the glitz and glam right on display and didn't try to be something that it's not. Sure, Caesar's Palace was gigantic and gaudy, and there were stores like Marc Jacobs or Michael Kors or Coach or Prada, things that I could never in a million years afford. And Excalibur, the hotel casino, it reached levels of tacky I didn't think were possible. But it's so unapologetic about it. That's what I really liked, and I would love to go back another time with a fistful of cash because I lost only $86, most of that playing roulette. It's always going to be something I appreciate. So when my friend and I scored free tickets to Magic Mike Live, I knew that we were in for something really special. I'll give you a little rundown of what I first saw. So, like I said, these tickets were free, and I'm very glad that they were free because I don't think I would have wanted to pay for this. We were literally in the front row. We were in two nice leather couches that were right in the front of the stage. We could reach out and we were getting sweat upon, basically. And the show started with the very generic, doofy kind of guy who came out and was like, "Ooh, you ladies ready to get soaking wet tonight?" And then the guys came out. They literally looked like they were dressed as the Village People, which was kind of the kitschy thing that I was expecting. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fine. At one point, a gentleman put his rear end in my face, and I may have given it a spank or two. But this guy was wandering around and saying things that were very bawdy and very much stereotypical, "Dude, girls, don't you want to feel my boner, girls?" Like all this weird stuff. And then they brought this woman on stage who, it seemed like she didn't want to be there and she wasn't feeling the show. And then all of a sudden she did this thing where she stopped the show mid-guy ranting and just screamed, "Unicorn, unicorn, unicorn." And I'm like, what the fuck? Obviously, at that moment, I'm like, oh, okay, this is part of the show now. Unicorn was a big old theme during this entire show, which was, I didn't really get. I might have missed something in the movies. I don't really remember watching the movies, if I can be honest here. But the woman kind of took it into her own hands where she was like, "We're in charge tonight, ladies." And that's kind of what I felt with the crowd there. You know, a bunch of bachelorette parties and a bunch of 21-year-olds. I was like, holy shit. And I will tell you straight up that I've never felt more like a grandma in my entire life because I'm just watching all these young, hot men. They're dancing around on stage and they look like bros doing backflips and stuff. And something in me just could not objectify them. I was just way more impressed with the fact that they were doing backflips and dancing really well. I'm just, oh my goodness, those boys are so talented. Nothing makes you feel more like a grandma when you see all those guys on stage just I making love, I fucking all these other women in the crowd, and they don't even give you a little glance because you're just so weirded out by what is happening in front of you. It was Vegas. It was so hella Vegas. These guys were sitting on the girls' laps and they were picking them up and doing all sorts of intimate dances with them. And the most that I got was I got the high knee in my face, which is one thing. I got a little touch on the knee, and I got one of the guys. He crumbled up the piece of paper that they give you. They give you all these fake dollar bills that you can just kind of throw, and he crumbled one up and just kind of tossed it in my face. Just a cute little, oh, look at you. You're so cute. I don't want you to touch me anywhere, but I'll just knock that in your face. Okay. Basically, the whole show centered around Mike, quote unquote, who was the main guy, and the main woman was kind of making him her bitch and things like that, and just she was very bawdy. But at one point, I felt it was interesting because she took things to a level where she said, okay, we've all talked about what we want. And she said the word penis so many times. Oh, dear Lord. But she said, it's all about what we want, Mike. What do you want, Mike? And he was kind of just like, I just want to make you happy, which, okay, I get it. That's what the whole theme of the night was about. It was all fun and games. I mean, why shouldn't ladies get a little objectification of the male figure once in a while? They were very nice, these guys, especially when they're all tight and cut and moving and gyrating sensually. It was really nice to see. And it was just impressive. Like I said, these guys were doing backflips. They were very coordinated with their dancing. This one guy had cables that were suspended from the ceiling, and he was grabbing on them. He brought a woman from the audience, and she was lying on a bed, and he was dangling in front of her. Not that kind of dangling, but he was suspended above her and dancing and roaming around. Like, it was just really impressive. And these guys had such tight bodies, and they were very athletic, and it was really impressive to see. And my favorite part of the show, which is forever burned in my memory, was Mike, and then this one girl that they pulled on stage. Again, it was a faux show. He pulled her on stage, and she had this tiny little dress on, and all of a sudden this water started falling from the ceiling, and it was like, I was like, oh my God, she's just getting wet. That's kind of weird, right? I thought it was strange that they just were letting this woman get all messy and she's out for a night, whatever. But then I realized, of course, she's part of the show too, because they started dancing together as the water's falling, and then they're standing in a pool and they're using the water to their advantage and momentum and grabbing one another. And, he's in his bathing suit, she's in a bra and a thong, and they were dancing sensually that I was like, holy crap, the human body is a pretty awesome thing, I have to say for myself. After all was said and done, though, something was telling me as I sat there, not getting any male affection that maybe other people were getting and really needing to go to the airport an hour later. I thought that maybe I had somehow moved past this part in my life. And it was a weird moment of kind of saying goodbye to something, but knowing that it was coming to its natural endpoint anyway. I know that there's always going to be a question of what women want, and I've talked about in past podcasts about the concept of girl versus woman. I'm in the point in my life where it's woman. I feel like a woman. Even when my mom tells me, oh, you're a smart girl, I'm like, no, I'm a woman. It feels what women exactly want, that's a question that gets asked a lot by men. They can kind of think they know what we want, but the truth of the matter is, sometimes even we don't know. Magic Mike Live showed me a Vegas version of what women want. These cute, glitzy, awesome, out in the open, attentive men. The guys in the show, they weren't just physically attractive. It was a general theme about giving ladies just what they wanted. It was all about us, and that's awesome, and that night it totally was. And I'm not saying that this is a bad thing, because there are times where we have to realize that there is this reciprocal relationship that goes on between men and women. We can want all the muscles and the money and the luxury and the harmony relationships that they give us. But why is it weirdly taboo to kind of delve into what men want too, especially in a kind of hive of women? I mentioned before there was that part in the show that was kind of fluffing aside all the dick jokes and the female arousement jokes where the host asked Mike what he wanted. And it was kind of that submissive sort of side of men that they have where they say, just to make you happy, I want you to be happy. Men have that side to them. They have the dominant and then they have the submissive side. And I think that that's fine too. And I feel like at this point, the dominant male is kind of being warped into something that it's not. Why shouldn't a man want to see his woman happy? But there comes a point, especially in this society that's happening right now, where I think the men, they're going too far in one direction. They're becoming the anti-Magic Mike, a guy who he absolutely is sharing a ton about himself, but it's not really because he wants to get to know you back. It's because he wants to get to know what's underneath your clothes first and foremost, and then everything is secondary. These are the guys who portray themselves as alpha males, but once you crack away at that surface, you find that they're just as sweet and soft as molasses underneath it all. And I can't blame testosterone. I can't blame men. I don't blame men for all these things. I'm not an internet feminist, But I think it's just a part of life where maybe you're not fully comfortable with who you are yet and you just aren't ready to show it to everybody. And I feel like there's a bunch of these guys out there that go this route when they try to understand the trials and tribulations of women, and they do it a little too much. They're the guys who are either self-described or given the title of male feminists. I saw an interesting Twitter thread recently where this guy who was a fan of Anita Sarkeesian of Feminist Frequency was going on about how because this woman that he went on a date with, she didn't get his feminist critiques of something like The Last Jedi, so oh boy, he had to break up with her. How dare she have her own thoughts about something, that kind of guy, the kind of guy I'm trying to describe here. What I do is I kind of compile a bunch of pictures from guys that I see on dating sites where one of the photos they choose to upload is them at the Women's March. And they're holding up a sign, don't even worry. And that, the matriarchy, they want it. They want to smash the patriarchy right along with us women when most of these women who want to do that literally want to punch men right in the dick. You can tell that these guys who choose to upload those kinds of photos are just having one big woke points contest for who respects the women the most. Because you know what? Winner gets to virtue signal while maybe, possibly doing the do after 3 or 4 whiskeys at a crowded bar. It all seems weirdly calculated to attract the opposite sex, and I'm going to tell you right now that just does not work on someone like me. I am tired of that because I've got this built-in bullshit detector that can sense the cuckening from a mile away. I don't want someone who thinks he has to be walked all over in order to get some respect from females. And I feel like this happens more often than not because society's definition of what makes a man is always changing. Same goes for women too. It's like we're attempting to put masculinity and femininity into one big brightly colored box each, but we freak out when the box gets too big and we have to find another one. I've never really been one to be defined by a label. On the contrary, I think that it's my constant need to point out the duality of nature. That's the thing that keeps people from running away from me or keeps me from being defined under one specific label. I just find these things that stand out more and more, like how female writers in this day and age are still trying to blame all the world's problems on men. There still exists this subsection of internet feminists who think that every problem can be defined away by something that a man did. And not just a man, a white man too. You saw this recent Esquire post where they wanted to highlight the quote-unquote straight white male, and people fucking lost their shit because, well, he's always been represented. By whom, though? We are told all the time what goes on in a man's head, but when we try to have them talk about it, we tell them to shut up. It's just nightmarish. But I do get the feeling that we are collectively listening to these kinds of people less and less. I feel like they are wearing out their welcome and people just don't want to hear the blame game anymore. It's so much more fun when someone can come to you and say, yeah, I was acting like a piece of shit. Yeah, I'm a dumbass. I can't believe I did that. Some humility is a welcome thing in this society. People want realness. They want the conflicts, the questions, the wondering, the authentic life. Where sometimes, as a nearly 33-year-old woman, you can feel like a grandma surrounded by nice boys essentially stripping on a stage in Vegas. Is that something that makes me endearing? Makes me a woman? Makes me feminine? Is that what will attract the men to me and not just the guys? There is a big shift happening here. Something is going on where we are absolutely calling out all the bad behavior around us, and it doesn't matter who it's coming from. But the important thing to remember is that that also encapsulates our own behavior. We're not just willy-nilly doing things anymore. There are some of us that do that, but that'll never stop. That'll never stop being a reality. Because I firmly believe that we're in a state where we are absolutely being ourselves and we are being authentically ourselves. But there's no need anymore to be a heightened version of it. It's like being in the audience of Magic Mike. Those boys went out of their way to show much how they care about the women's. And all the ladies in the audience were out to prove how much they could woo at a guy taking his shirt off. We play a role in life, and that role is ourselves. And although we do exaggerate from time to time, it doesn't make us any less valid or aware of who we are. And what we're after never has to be put into a tight little box with a label slapped on top. There's no defining anymore. There's just being. Are you interested in the muscle-bound hunk with a heart of gold? Then that's who you want, and you have every right to go after it. But I don't think it is a smart thing to lose yourself in the process of going after what you want. And that happens when you allow a relationship that's not reciprocal over and over again. You see the guy who lets the woman walk all over him, or the woman who lets the guy walk all over her. And it just goes back and forth, where you're getting things from one another, but you're not getting things that are bettering you. And I get really upset when I see such a disproportionate nature between people. It's something I've worked really hard to be conscious of, to not give what I can't get back, at least in some capacity. There's been a division for a very long time when the internet feminists rose up to claim something back from men, but it's all starting to flip on its head. Like I said, we're more comfortable calling out the bad behavior from everyone, even though there will be the lackeys who just parrot back, "You're the best, nothing you do is wrong." But it's not done in a disproportionate way anymore. You can't trust someone. I will never trust someone who never stops referring to the trolls, quote unquote, or the haters, quote unquote, that are following them. Because you know that they are doing something to instigate that. But I digress. Personally, I am in a place where I no longer feel comfortable taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Yes, you heard that right. I am really trying to make these changes and be aware of who I am and exactly what I want, because I'm no longer comfortable doing it all alone. If I want what I want, I have to be willing to work for it, put in the time and the effort and the energy, and not backslide, just pressing forward. Just dance in the rain like I've already got my Magic Mike. Because I thought about something recently as I continue to write out my thoughts day in and day out. Do I want to be the greatest story ever told, or the greatest story never finished? Thank you for listening to this episode of the Ginescast. I cannot even wrap my head around how much news there is lately. And I need to get more streamlined about news stories that I want to cover. Because, I am able to follow everything from beginning to end for the most part. And I feel like because I've been in the news industry for so long, I have the ability to tell the story without having to go into too much detail. So I need to focus my time and energy on doing that, because I do like bringing you guys news stories that we can have a discussion about. But stuff like this is also fun too. What can I say? Ain't nothing wrong with getting a little philosophical and a little emotional and a little personal from time to time. Just can't do it every day. No one gives a shit. The Ginescast comes out every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube and iTunes. If you like this video, please give it a like, please leave me a comment below, or share it with someone that you think would like it. If you want more from me, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at HelloGines, or shoot me an email at gina.annunziato@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Ginescast. I'm your host, Gina Annunziato, and I'll see you next time. Take care.